folks, my name is Janaki.
And this is Madame Bathsheba.
And together we are Catomancy Tarot. So today I'm here to bring you a walkthrough and overview of a deck that I showed you guys last month in my What's in My Basket reading. And several of you asked specifically for me to do a walkthrough of this deck, so here we go. And that deck is Les Tarots Celtiques, the Tarot of the Celts, which is a French deck by Luara Tuan, and it was made in 1998 and published by, I think it's through Editions de Vicchi, and they've made a few other decks, so if you like this, you know, style of deck, you might want to check out those. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and flip the camera around and I'm going to take you through the cards.
Alrighty, so as I mentioned in my last video, I stumbled across this deck after I watched a 90s fairy movie called A Fairy Tale, A True Story, and sometimes you see a thing and you get kind of inspired, and I realized I didn't have like a Celtic deck or a fairy deck, and while those things kind of aren't in my normal practice, I figured you gotta have one, and so I went through a search and I eventually found this one, and it is a vintage deck. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but it's still kind of available. I found this copy on Amazon for like $30, so it's still out there if it is one you're interested in. Unfortunately, it is in French. And it is a little bit of a intricate or complex deck, and so that might be a little bit of a challenge, but I was so enamored with the artwork that I went ahead and got it anyways, and I'm so glad I did. So it comes in this box. There's no kind of magnetic closure, it's just paper and cardboard, and it comes with this guidebook as well. The cards are fairly significantly large, and then it comes with a guidebook, which is everything is in French, but these days I can just scan this with my you know, Google Translate app, and I can get a pretty good idea of what's going on. It has some information on each of the majors. If you do read French or you want to like practice learning French, this might be a fun deck to do that with. And then it's got a little bit about all of the minors. But I haven't found the guidebook to be too much of a bar in terms of language issues. There seems to be a lot of really great information in there, but I can't really comment too much on its content. The deck itself is quite large. It's on watercolor paper, so there's no coating or anything. It sounds hollow when you knock on it, but I don't know if you can pick up on that texture, but it feels like heavy-duty watercolor paper. And so all of the majors are taken from Celtic mythology. It seems to me, granted, I know very little about Celtic mythology. This is my first kind of foray into that world. So forgive me if I get anything wrong or if I mispronounce anything for those of you who are more knowledgeable about this than I. But from what I can tell, all of the majors are taken from like sort of a various places in Celtic mythology. So you have some Irish stuff, you have some Welsh. It's kind of a mashup. You also have figures from the Tuatha De Danann. Yeah, here we go. So for the magician, we have Lug, and you'll notice that the cards don't come with a traditional title. So the only way to know that this would be the magician is to know that the Roman numeral 1 corresponds to the magician. So if you don't have the numbers of the major arcana memorized, then this will be a very kind of difficult deck to work with. And then you'll also notice that the author and creator has used their own kind of idiosyncratic associations, and sometimes they do correspond. Like here we have Mercury and the Magician, but in later cards you shall see, like here we have High Priestess and the Moon, which again is a familiar association. And here we have Demona or the Morrigan. And you'll also notice here that you have upright and reversed meanings in French. And so here we see fecundity, patience, fidelity, and I believe that's peace. I'm not going to try and pronounce the French, but for the most part, a lot of the key phrases are kind of intelligible. Here we have Brigantia as number 3, which would be the Empress. And here you start to see that we get these different astrological and zodiacal correspondences than the sort of the hermetic ones. So that might throw you off. I don't really mind, because for me what's important is I know this is the Empress, and then it becomes kind of intelligible to me, but I was just kind of completely enamored with the art style and the borders and the artwork, and it feels like a I don't know, it feels like a French perfume shop. It feels really magical to me, and that's why I was drawn to it. So here, the Hierophant, we have Essus. For the Lovers, we have Nemetona. For the Chariot, we have Teotes. I'm really gonna butcher these. My apologies. So here at 8, I believe this is the Justice card, because we have a Libra correspondence, which would make sense. And then we also have Justice as one of the keywords. So here we have Ardunia on her boar. Then number 9, we have the Hermit, Ogmios. So keywords: wisdom, like profound, eloquence, prudence, silence, and frugality. So sometimes the keywords seem on point, and sometimes they're a little bit left field. But in the background, I think you can see some of those Celtic, I believe they're called Ogham runes, which is fun. And you'll see, once we get into the minors, you'll see the Ogham associations for the cards as well. For 10, we have Dagda. For 11, this would be the Strength card, and so we have Smirtrios. Gwydion for the Hanged Man. Suculos for number 13, the Death card. Temperance, we have Dian Hecht. This is the card that features on the cover. So this is the Devil card, and we have Serumno. Tarnus for the Tower. Siriona for the Star, and I love this owl, and I love this kind of starry sky. Here's our Moon card, and we have Borovo or Mananan. Belenos for the Sun. Epona for our Judgment card. Artio for the World. And then last at number 22, this is the Fool card. So we have Couturier with a couple dogs here. And so that is our majors. And so for the minors, I'll go ahead and show you guys. It's broken down into the 4 suits, but the way it works is each of the suits has a elemental correspondence along with a season. So each of the elements have to do with a season of the year, as well as a type of creature, and I believe the creatures have a sort of a hermetic association with the element as well. So with the green background cards, this is the suit of air, which corresponds to spring, and throughout it you'll see sylphs. For the suit of fire represents summer, and in it you'll see depicted salamanders. And then we have the earth suit, which represents fall, and you have gnomes. And then lastly we have water as winter, and you'll see undines, or kind of mermaid creatures depicted there. And so one of the things that makes this deck a little bit challenging is that you'll notice that the only indication of the suit we have is the color of the card, and otherwise all of the cards are numbered just sequentially, so 23, 24, all the way up through, at the end of winter, you get 78. So the only way to know if it's like the 1 or 2 of the suit, so what I went ahead and did is I wrote A for ace, and then I drew, let's see if I can get that to focus, I drew a little, the elemental symbol to remind me. So now I know this is the ace of air. So this would be the Ace of Swords. The other thing to note about all of these guys is that they all have a corresponding Om rune in the corner. So if that is something in your practice, this might be an interesting deck to kind of check out and work with. And all of the minors also have trees that kind of correspond with the Celtic tree calendar, and so for the aces, each of the aces represents a different tree. So here, and I went ahead and I translated the tree names from the French and just wrote them lightly here. So we have the gorse tree for the Ace of Swords. We have heather for the Ace of Fire. Here we have aspen for the Ace of Earth, and then lastly we have pine for the Ace of Water. And then after the aces, if we just go ahead and turn these guys over, these are the backs, by the way. Oh, that was the cat. The cat's come to visit. But after the aces, you'll notice that all of the twos are going to have the same tree. So on each of the twos here, you'll see that it's the same tree that's depicted, and that's a birch tree. So here is our 2 of swords with the birch. Here's the birch in summer. Here's the birch in the suit of earth, and the birch in the suit of water. So you'll have the same tree shown, but you'll have different characters, different kind of elemental beings. And so to me, this is kind of a, even though it's a fully illustrated deck, it reads a little bit more like a pip deck, because the scenes you're seeing aren't really, you know, they don't correspond to kind of the Rider-Waite-Smith images. What you're getting is really just kind of some, you know, some foliage and then some elementals. And then you also get the keywords, which I will say don't really align with the Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, but I actually really like reading with the keywords. So to me, this almost reads a little bit more like either an oracle deck, where you have the upright and reverse meanings, or you can read it a little bit like a pip deck or a Marseille deck, where you kind of take note of the correspondences and read it that way. So those are the two ways I've found that work for me best with this oracle deck, or this tarot deck, because it's kind of like really loosely based on the tarot system. But the images I just find to be really, really beautiful. So now we're on to the fives. So all of the fives will feature an alder tree. So here we have a crow being. And so some of the keywords here are force, ardor, combativeness, competition, and progress. Here we have the 5, which is alder in the suit of fire. So we've got some, the salamanders is the name for the kind of fire elementals, but they appear kind of as fairies or as sprites. And then here we have alder in the suit of gnomes, so we've got some of our gnome friends here. And then 5 in the suit of water. We've got some undines, and so here they're appearing as sort of amphibious critters. So we have the 6, which is willow. I've got a cat who's peeking in on us here. She wants to join in. Fire of willow. We've got some broomstick riders here. This is what the cat's done. She's just joining us here. Sorry for the interruption. So that's the 6. Excuse me, cat. And the 6 of water. With the 7s, we have hawthorn as our tree. Seven of fire. The cat is being a pain. All right, Catbert. 7 of earth. And 7 of water. And then we have oak for our 8s. And so here we can see all of the oak leaves and the acorns in the background here. Nine is holly. And then for our 10, we have hazel. So we've got some sprites here. And I think I looked this up because all of the 10s also has this fish in each of them, the hazel, and I remember reading something about it, but now I've forgotten. and I can't look it up because I would need my Google Translate, but you guys are on my phone right now. So yeah, that's the hazel. And then the other peculiarity about this deck, if that wasn't already too many, is they don't really differentiate between court cards and the rest of the suit. So it just continues on. So now we're at number 33, which would be normally be the page or the 11 of swords. And so here again we see bramble. So bramble is going to be the tree that represents all of the pages. So we have here's our page of swords with the bramble. We see bramble again for the fire suit. Earth of bramble, and then we've got our water of bramble. Then our knights, so here we have ivy, and then our knight of water. And then for a queen, we have reed, which was the best translation I could figure out for this French. If you know French botanical terms, boy, is this deck for you. So now we've got our queen of reed in fire. We've got a little owl here for the earth queen, and then we've got another frog for our queen of water. And then lastly we have the kings, which are represented by elder. So for our king of swords here, we have Renaissance, mage, like esotericism. I'm not sure what that word is. Protection. And then on the bottom we have intolerance and transformations are the two words I can kind of make out, but that gives you kind of a sense of what the keywords are like. The keywords are often a little bit more like old school cartomancy keywords, which I honestly think are kind of fun, but they're more kind of fortune-tellery rather than, you know, like modern oracle messages. But I still think they're quite compelling. So here's our king of earth. And then lastly here, we have our king of water, and the elder plant. So that is a little flip through of the Celtic Tarot. If you dig this deck, I think they're still out there, so you can try and track them down. You can check out other Editions de Vicchi. I think they have like an Egyptian deck and a Mayan deck as well. And so I hope you enjoyed this flip through. Oh, one other thing. Now that I showed you all the cards, I'll just go ahead and show you how I shuffle the deck, since it is quite a long deck. I have fairly large hands and I can't get my hands around it. However, it is kind of fairly flexible, and so I can side shuffle it. I can side riffle shuffle it, and that's the best way I've found to get a good shuffle on these guys. You can obviously also like overhand them the long ways, which is another good way to shuffle, but for me, I feel like the best way to get a good shuffle is to do the side riffle, and that's been working well. I know sometimes big decks can be harder to use if you can't get a good shuffle out of them, but I haven't really found too much of a trouble with these guys. So what I will leave you with today is I'll go ahead and let's just draw a couple cards. Let's see if I did a good enough shuffle on these guys, and let's see who shows up here. So we've got a little 3-card draw for ourselves. So we've got the 7 of Fire, the Hawthorn. Ooh, look, we've got the 6, and then we've got the Queen of Earth. So that's what they look like in a reading together. I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.